Your hands are already moving before your eyes open. Not to silence an alarm, not to check a phone, just to feel the ground beneath you. Cold, real, alive. You are 40,000 years old, and you have never once been late for anything. Now here's what nobody tells you about the people who built our entire species from scratch. They worked less than you do, slept better than you do, and knew things about the human mind that we're only just rediscovering. And one of those things? It might be the reason you feel exhausted every single morning of your modern life. So, before agriculture, before cities, before the concept of a deadline existed, what was a day actually like? 22 facts about caveman life, and I promise, at least half of them are going to make you furious. 1. The 4-hour workday. Here's the one that breaks people. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies, the closest living mirror we have to our prehistoric ancestors, consistently show that early humans spent only 4 to 6 hours per day on subsistence activities. That means hunting, gathering, cooking, tool maintenance, all of it, done before lunch. The rest? Leisure. Actual, unscheduled. Nobody is watching leisure. A prehistoric human probably had more free hours in a single week than most modern workers get in a month, and the word busy hadn't been invented yet. 2. The brutish caveman is a lie. Every movie, every documentary, every Halloween costume, they all show the same thing. A hunched, grunting creature barely surviving between predator attacks. Archaeological evidence says otherwise. The people living 40,000 years ago had the same brain size, the same vocal anatomy, the same emotional range as you. They weren't surviving, they were living, with art, music, humor, and social lives complex enough to make most modern offices look primitive by comparison. 3. Biphasic sleep. Forget 8 hours straight. That's a modern invention, and a recent one. Prehistoric humans almost certainly practiced biphasic sleep, sleeping for a few hours, waking naturally in the middle of the night, staying alert for an hour or two, then sleeping again until dawn. Historians have found references to this first sleep and second sleep pattern in medieval texts, and modern sleep researchers have replicated it in lab conditions. What we call insomnia, our ancestors called it Tuesday. 4. Someone was always awake. Safety in a prehistoric camp was not a given. It was maintained hour by hour through vigilance and cooperation. Someone was always awake, listening, tracking sounds in the dark, the crack of a branch, the silence of birds, the shift in wind direction. These weren't background noise, they were data. The people who slept soundest were the ones who trusted the person on watch. That trust was the original social contract. 5. Fire was a living responsibility. Letting a fire die completely wasn't just inconvenient, it was potentially catastrophic. Restarting fire from scratch required skill, dry materials, and time you might not have. So someone always tended it through the night, feeding it carefully, keeping the coals alive. Often the elderly or young adults took this role. Fire wasn't just warmth, it was the center of everything. As central to the evening, one researcher put it, as gravity is to your body right now. 6. Rushing didn't exist. The entire concept of being pressed for time, of hurrying, of running late, of the low-grade panic that defines modern mornings, is a recent invention. Early humans were governed by light, hunger, weather, and seasons. Not clocks, not calendars, not quarterly reviews. Time was not a resource to be managed. It was simply the medium through which life moved, and nobody was losing a race against it. 7. They ate everything. The caveman diet myth, all meat, all the time, is exactly that, a myth. Research published in PLOS 1, analyzing remains from Peruvian burial sites dating back 9,000 years, found that plant matter made up roughly 80% of the diet, with meat playing a secondary role. Early humans knew 200 to 300 specific plant species, roots, tubers, seeds, nuts, berries, insects, and rotated through them with the seasons. The paleo diet industry is selling you a fantasy that never existed. 8. Cooking was a technological revolution. Fire didn't just warm food, it transformed it. Cooking effectively doubled or tripled the number of plant species early humans could eat, converting toxic raw tubers into safe nutrition and unlocking calories locked inside seeds. One site in Israel dating back 780,000 years showed evidence of 55 different food plants being processed with fire. That's not survival, that's cuisine. 9. Gossip was law enforcement. In a group with no written laws, no courts, and no police, social order was maintained through something far more powerful: reputation. Gossip wasn't idle chatter. It was law enforcement, news, and social media rolled into one. Stories of who was selfish, who was generous, who apologized, and who held a grudge circulated around the fire every night. Nobody wrote anything down, but nothing was forgotten. Your reputation was your survival. 10. The social credit score. Every act of bravery, every moment of generosity, every time you shared meat when you didn't have to, it all went into an invisible ledger that the entire group maintained collectively. Stories about you became your social credit score, determining who helped you in a crisis, who trusted you with their children, who stood beside you when things went wrong. The most dangerous thing you could do wasn't fight a predator. It was be known as someone who took more than they gave. 11. Children learned by watching. There were no classrooms, no textbooks, no formal instruction of any kind. Skills like flint knapping, the precise controlled fracturing of stone to create razor-sharp blades, were transmitted entirely through observation and imitation. Children watched adults for years before attempting it themselves, received corrections through demonstration rather than explanation, and built encyclopedic knowledge of their environment through thousands of hours of unstructured attention. Modern education researchers call this situated learning. Prehistoric humans just called it growing up. 12. Language saved lives. The development of complex language, with syntax, metaphor, and the ability to describe things that weren't present, was not just a social luxury, it was a survival technology. The ability to say, "There's a predator near the eastern ridge. It moves at dusk, it avoids fire," and have that information survive across generations without anyone ever seeing the predator. That's the original database. Language didn't just connect people, it compressed decades of hard-won knowledge into sentences. 13. Dreams were dispatches. Dreams weren't dismissed as random neural noise. They were discussed, interpreted, and treated as messages. Warnings from ancestors, previews of hunts, signals from the landscape itself. Every morning began with a kind of collective debrief, a sharing of the night's visions. Whether or not the interpretations were accurate is almost beside the point. The practice created a daily ritual of attention, reflection, and group meaning-making that most modern humans have entirely abandoned. 14. Spirituality was social glue. Early spirituality wasn't primarily about explaining thunder or appeasing gods. Its core function was cohesion, welding small, fragile groups of humans into something strong enough to survive. Shared rituals, symbols, songs, and stories created a sense of collective identity that made cooperation feel natural rather than forced. The group that danced together, grieved together, and celebrated together was the group that didn't fracture under pressure. Religion, in its earliest form, was engineering. 15. The hunt was science, not chaos. Popular imagination pictures the prehistoric hunt as a frantic, adrenaline-soaked chase. The reality was closer to a slow, methodical science experiment. Trackers read compressed grass, disturbed soil, the angle of broken twigs, the temperature of dung. They moved at a steady, sustainable pace, sometimes for hours, making constant adjustments based on new data. Trackers rotated the lead position to prevent fatigue. The hunt was a cooperative, cognitively demanding operation that required more patience than speed. 16. Nothing was wasted. A successful hunt yielded hundreds of pounds of meat, bone, hide, sinew, and fat, and every single part had a use. Choice cuts for immediate consumption, marrow cracked from bones for dense nutrition, hides stretched, scraped, and treated with brain tissue to keep them supple, sinew for binding, bone for tools. The butchering process itself was a sophisticated technical operation requiring detailed knowledge of animal anatomy. Waste wasn't a moral failing, it was a strategic impossibility. 17. The bone needle changed everything. Less than 20,000 years ago, someone invented the bone needle, a tool so small you could lose it in a carpet, and so consequential it transformed human survival. Before the needle, clothing was draped and tied. After it, clothing was tailored, fitted to the body, layered for insulation, shaped for movement. The ability to construct a garment that actually fit meant humans could survive temperatures that would have killed them otherwise. One tiny tool. Entire continents opened up. 18. Beads before bread. Humans were creating decorative beads and personal ornaments at least 100,000 years ago, tens of thousands of years before the invention of agriculture. These weren't accidental byproducts of tool making. They were intentional, time-consuming acts of self-expression. Survival wasn't enough. Our ancestors needed beauty, status markers, ways to signal identity across the invisible social landscape of the group. The desire to be seen as an individual is not a modern vanity. It is ancient beyond measure. 19. They read the sky. Long before Stonehenge, long before any formal astronomy, prehistoric humans were tracking the stars. They identified constellations, mapped lunar cycles, and used the sky as a calendar, predicting animal migrations, seasonal plant availability, and the timing of floods. This wasn't mysticism. It was applied science, developed over generations of careful observation and transmitted through story. The night sky was the original almanac, and our ancestors read it fluently. 20. Music dissolved the self. Flutes carved from bird bone and mammoth ivory, some of the oldest musical instruments ever found, dating back over 40,000 years, weren't entertainment in the modern sense. Music, combined with rhythm and communal movement, produced a documented neurological effect, the dissolution of individual boundaries, the merging of separate nervous systems into a shared experience. Fear contracted, time stretched. The group became, briefly, a single organism. Music wasn't culture, it was technology for surviving the dark. 21. They lived into their 70s. The life expectancy of 30 statistic is one of the most misunderstood numbers in all of human history. That figure is dragged down almost entirely by catastrophic childhood mortality, infections, accidents, predation in the first years of life. Hunter-gatherers who survived to age 15 had a modal lifespan of 68 to 78 years, according to the most comprehensive study ever conducted on the subject. They didn't age faster. They didn't crumble at 40. They grew old, and the ones who did were treated as irreplaceable repositories of knowledge. 22. Free time built civilization. Here is the fact that reframes everything else. The long, unbroken stretches of time in which nothing urgent had to be done. The hours after the food was gathered, after the fire was fed, after the children were settled, that time was not wasted. It was the incubator of every human achievement. Art, music, language, spirituality, astronomy, tool innovation, none of it emerged from desperation. All of it emerged from leisure. The most important thing our ancestors ever did was absolutely nothing, and they did it better than we ever will.